All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to do another reaction to a non-stop video, and this popped up, and I had to react to it immediately. So this one's called "How Good Was Wizards Michael Jordan?" And I covered this slightly back in the beginning of my channel, like it was like my third or fourth video, but it kind of got buried because I was early on in the YouTube world. So I figure I want to give this more attention because Wizards Michael Jordan was a gift. It was just awesome. So anyways, if you like nonstop, go check out his channel and shoot him a like right there. And yeah, let's watch this together. Here we go.
The Last Dance was one of the hottest documentaries this year, even though the real last dance of Michael Jordan happened 5 years after the story in the doc.
Seriously, I'm hoping for a documentary about these 2 years with the Wizards. That would be awesome for a guy like me.
In 2001, Jordan unretired for the second time and suited up in a blue Wizards jersey. Some people say that his 2 Wizards years tarnished his legacy, and some praised MJ even more. So what's the real truth?
Yeah, I disagree with a lot of people on this take because even my own brother, he wishes Jordan didn't come back. He feels like this tarnished his legacy, and I disagree 100%. This showed for me an old man who was still competing against the best of the young. Like just with old school fundamentals at this point. He had no athleticism, just fundamentals. It's like watching Joker right now play. That's how I felt about watching Jordan. It was just like a guy who's smarter than all of you and who's going to outwork all of you. But yeah, a lot of people like to tarnish this era, but Jordan wouldn't have been able to retire peacefully if he didn't do this.
Truth. And how good was Jordan in Washington? Was he really washed? Or did he prove once more that he's the GOAT? Watch the rest of the video to find out. After The Last Dance. In 1998, MJ and Phil Jackson went to the karaoke bar, and Jordan chose the Careless Whisper by George Michael and sang, "I'm never gonna dance again, the way I danced with you," looking gently in Phil's direction. Okay, I totally made that up, but Jordan indeed said that he wouldn't be playing unless it's for Phil Jackson. Since the Bulls GM Jerry Krause didn't want to re-sign Phil, and Scottie Pippen wanted to get his first massive paycheck, the Bulls fell apart, and MJ fulfilled his promise.
That's Jerry Seinfeld, by the way, but yeah. Excuse me. It's a crazy thing that happened in Chicago because you got the greatest player of all time saying, "I'm only going to play for Phil Jackson." So in other words, just don't fire the coach. That's all he's saying. And meanwhile, they're about to win their 3rd championship in a row. So all the guy is saying is, don't fire my coach and I'm coming back. And yeah, they fucked that up. They fucked it up. So he ended up hiring his old coach, Doug Collins, for the Wizards when he was GM. And he ended up playing for Doug Collins. I mean, as close as he can get. But yeah, the Bulls are stupid. The Bulls were so stupid for what they did.
And retired for the second time. And then in January of 2000, Michael came back to the NBA, but he didn't wear a jersey. Instead, he slipped into a suit and tie as a minority owner and president of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards. The team was bad and finished that year with a 29-53 record.
Yep.
And they got even worse next year with 10 wins less. But there was hope on the horizon. They got the #1 pick. MJ had the chance to get a blue-chip prospect, and he famously opted for Kwame Brown, a #1 high school player in the country. Jordan saw...
Yeah, that was okay. Jordan as a GM, terrible. Jordan, even as an owner, was pretty bad. He was asked about being a coach, and he said, like, no way I'd be a terrible coach because he would be so impatient with today's players. But he was also a terrible GM and a terrible owner. I'm not claiming he's the greatest owner of all time. I'm not claiming he's the greatest coach or GM of all time. He was the greatest basketball player of all time. Terrible at everything else. Speaking of which, have you guys seen Kwame Brown's YouTube channel? That shit's crazy. Kwame's insane, man. I mean, he tells the facts, though. I dig that part about Kwame, but Kwame's also like, he's crazy, man.
Saw something in Kwame, and he believed he is the cornerstone that will immediately turn the Wizards into a winning ball club. Also, he knew a guy pretty good at basketball, a guy who was on the floor with the team at every practice and who was itching to make another comeback. It's an itch that still needs to be scratched, and I want to make sure this itch doesn't bother me for the rest of my life. I'm just going to play the game of basketball that I love. It's not about the money. Indeed, it wasn't about the money.
And that's why I dig what he did, you know, because I get that. We're talking about the greatest player of all time here. And he doesn't care about all that bullshit. He doesn't care about the stats. He doesn't care about the accolades. The guy just loves playing basketball, right? This is the same guy who, when he was injured after his rookie season, at his sophomore season in the NBA, he was playing pickup basketball when he wasn't allowed to on his contract, just because he missed playing basketball. This is that guy. So that's why I love the fact he came back. It's like, imagine your favorite band and, you know, they say that they're done. And then a couple years later, they come out with one more banger of an album. And then they go on tour. And then they release one more banger of an album and they go on tour. And then they retire. Like, that's a gift. That's a gift. So I never understood why people were so critical about Wizards Jordan, because every single game that I got to see on TV back then, I mean, I was celebrating.
Indeed, it wasn't about the money. Jordan the GM gave Jordan the player the smallest salary on the Wizards, and MJ gave all of it to the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attack.
By the way, there's a ton of charitable things that Michael Jordan has done throughout his life, but I can relate to the guy. I didn't know about this until it came out recently, but he's of similar mind. He does not advertise any donations. He does not advertise any charitable work he's ever done. He just does it. And then he asks everybody around him not to talk about it. That's a real man. Sorry to say, that's a real fucking man. He's not worried about his image. He wants to do something good, so he'll fucking do it.
It really was just about the game for him. And because of that competitive fire that never ceased to burn, and that voice in the head who kept telling him he is still better than the young guys who took over the league from him. How good were the Wizards?
Not good.
The Wizards had a young Richard Hamilton, who was in his third year, and who was turning to be one of the most promising shooting guards in the league. And that was about it when it comes to quality players with potential. The rest were either older veterans on their way out, or young role players. Of course, there was also Kwame Brown, who, by the time the season started, was already crushed by Jordan, who insulted him at any chance he got. Jordan never changed his ways, and just like he trash-talked all of his opponents, teammates, and Jerry Krause, he was maybe even worse to Kwame. The 19-year-old kid couldn't take it, and he played with zero confidence and was basically unusable on the court. Nobody on the team averaged more than 10 points that year, other than Rip Hamilton and Jordan. The Wizards were the same team that won 19 games the year prior, plus Jordan and Kwame. MJ thought it would be enough to be competitive, but he overstated his team.
Rip. A couple more years, and Rip was about to become a beast, because we all know what he did on the Pistons. Kwame never quite got there. If all you expected was 8 points and like 5 rebounds out of the guy, you'd be good. But he's wasting a position at that point. By the next year they had Stackhouse, but they got rid of Rip. So I liked them better with Rip. Rick Hamilton, that is, for all you don't know. Yeah, they weren't going to be good no matter what. The Wizards were not ready to be good yet, even with Jordan.
Ant himself. Return of the Mac. Before the season.
That's a cool image right there. That's a cool image. I'll give it to him.
Return of the Mac. Before the season, Jordan was working tirelessly to get himself in shape. He trained every day with his personal trainer, Tim Grover, and held private training camps with various NBA players to get himself in game shape. So,
Stick it in the comments below. Do you think Nonstop is going to mention the whole Ron Artest situation? How Ron Artest broke MJ's ribs around this time? Let me know. Here we go.
Season started, Jordan wasn't rusty. In the first 2 weeks of the season, Jordan scored over 30 in 4 of his 8 games.
Crazy.
In the 9th, he poured 44 on the Jazz, picking up right where he left off in 1998. After the first 10...
Dude, a small forward Jordan was insane. Just get down on the block, post up, make some shit happen. There's no better player in NBA history for that job than Michael Jordan. He's got so many ways to score from the post. So if his job is just go out there and get like 10 rebounds and 30 points, if he wasn't broken, if he didn't have a broken ribs and a broken, a fucked up knee, dude, it would have been easy pickings, less responsibility. But his team was so young.
Games. He averaged 27.4 points, 6.3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals.
That's sick right there. But this is the stuff that most people won't talk about because they weren't actually watching. So the Jordan that came back before the injuries, he was almost prime Jordan. Like, give him another couple of months, he would have got that up to 30, so he would have hit his average. And he's getting actually more rebounds, same amount of steals because he's a fucking monster, probably the same amount of blocks, and his assists are average, But he would have basically been hitting his peak numbers and just taking less responsibility. But he had nothing but kids around him.
And it seemed like he had never left.
Yeah.
His stats were virtually the same to the 1998
It was a joy to watch.
regular season. He was in the MVP race and made it easy for the world to fall in love with him once again. However, his play wasn't reflected in the team record, as the Wizards only notched 2 games in the win column. They started the season 5-12 and were at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Also, Jordan's stellar play at the beginning of the season wasn't sustainable at the age of 38. He was still Michael Jordan, but he wasn't Air Jordan anymore, or at least not all the time. And even though his totals were still looking good, Mike became an inefficient volume scorer on a bad team. He shot 40% in those first 17 games, a landslide from his career average of 50%. MJ was still fundamentally sound. He could still see every play, and he was still 6'6", strong and confident. But he didn't have the same speed, and he didn't have the...
This All-Star game I covered in a previous video called Kobe ruined Jordan's perfect ending or something like that from a while ago. Go check it out if you haven't seen it, because man, seeing washed up, end of his career Jordan versus prime Kobe was awesome. And I still hate Kobe a little bit for winning that game, but I also don't. I really hate Jermaine O'Neal for blocking or for fouling Kobe on that 3 after Jordan hits the... Is it a shot?
Under him to shoot efficiently.
Yeah, it's a
if you
shot.
know anything about Jordan, you know
when
that
Jordan hits the overtime game-winning shot, just like a second or 2 left on the clock, and then Jermaine O'Neal fucking fouls Kobe Bryant for a 3, gives him 3 free throws, and they go to second overtime, and Kobe just leads his team to victory. But he ruined a perfect ending for All-Star games for Michael Jordan. Jermaine O'Neal, I'm not mad at you, Kobe. You're psycho. You're insane. Jermaine O'Neal, fuck you, man. Why'd you have to do that shit?
that he hates losing more than anything. After those 17 games and a 5-12 record, the Wizards won 9 in a row. Then they lost a couple, and in the second of those 2 losses, MJ had the worst game of his career. In 25 minutes on the floor, he shot 2 out of 10 and finished the game with 6 points, which snapped his record 866 game streak of double-figure scoring.
Shit, man, I covered a video on this too. So yeah, that happened, and Doug Collins benched him, benched all the starters. And then the next 2 games, he scored like 50-something and 40-something. Lit him up. But yeah, this did happen. It was the first game in a lot of games that Jordan didn't score at least 10 points.
And the media went ballistic. After the game, Jordan was down on himself. On the bus ride from the arena, he sat next to Doug Collins, whom he hired to be the coach, and asked him, "Do you think I can still play?" Collins said, "Yeah, of course. I only took you out because we were down by 25 in the fourth and wanted to keep you fresh for the next game." MJ was satisfied and said he did the right thing, but he needed the confirmation and the assurance that his coach still believed in his abilities.
Yep.
2 nights later, he responded in a big...
That's a cool image. Him going against 3 defenders. Holy shit, dude. That should be a basketball card. Comment down below. And if you guys have some Wizards Jordan basketball cards, because I didn't until recently, but hanging out with my homies from work, I'm gonna take a quick look back. Oh yeah. No, I've got like 5 or 6 of them now. You know, Wizards cards. And the crazy thing is, I got them for like $1 each at the card shop because nobody wants them. But to me, I was like, holy shit, this is gold. You know, that's an awesome era to remember. Anyways, that's a cool shot. That's all I'm saying.
Big way. He scored the first 3 times he had the ball, and he finished the game with 51 points, going 21 for 38 from the field. He was the oldest player ever to score 50 in an NBA game. He followed that up with a 45-point, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steal effort against the New Jersey Nets.
That's insane.
Including scoring 22 points in a row during one stretch. In the game against the Cavaliers, the Wizards were down by a point with 1.6 seconds left. Michael then hit a mid-range jumper for the last buzzer beater of his career. In a game against his former club, after enduring Ron Mercer's trash talk and having his jumper blocked, he responded by pinning Mercer's layup against the backboard with 2 hands and trash-talking him on the way back up the court. It was a game-winning play.
Some people have brought it up in the comments down below in previous videos, and I agree. That's my favorite MJ block. Yeah, there's crazy, more athletic ones, but this is the most disrespectful because this had a fucking purpose to it. You know, and I'm going to rewind it just enough for you to hear it. Why it was.
The Wizards were down by a point with 1.6 seconds left. Michael then hit a mid-range jumper for the last buzzer beater of his career. In a game against his former club, after enduring Ron Mercer's trash talk.
All right, so here we go.
Having his jumper blocked, he responded by pinning Mercer's layup against the...
I know it's low def, but seriously, old man. What he's about to do. Bang.
He responded by pinning Mercer's layup against the back.
Right there. There it is. Look at that. That's just fucking disrespectful. But that's payback. That's because this wasn't regular basketball anymore. He was pissed. With 2 hands and trash-talking him on the way back up the court. It was a game-winning play and one of the most spectacular blocks by Jordan, or anyone for that matter. Yeah,
it was even more impressive
because he ripped it out of the sky. Like, he didn't block it. He grabbed it and took it with 2 hands. Like, that's fucking serious.
It was done by a 39-year-old who spent his last 3 years playing golf, drinking, and smoking cigars. By the end of the season, Jordan notched back-to-back 40-point games, but also 4 more games where he failed to reach double figures. And that's where the answer lies about Jordan's time with the Wizards. Yeah, he could still play, and yes, he could still be dominant, but it wasn't the kind of dominance we grew accustomed to, and it didn't happen every game. Jordan finished the year early due to a knee injury that required surgery, and the Wizards didn't make the playoffs with a 37-45 record.
He's not going to cover the broken rib.
MJ played 60 games in the 2001-02 season, and he averaged 23 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 5.2.
Okay. In that era, early 2000s, like, this is the lowest scoring era of all time in basketball, right? How is this not impressive? 41-year-old guy, right? 41? I don't think he's 40 at this point. I believe he's 41. But either way, even if he's 40, okay, 23 points. That's more than 1/4 of the team's points right there. More than that. 5.7 rebounds, that's his fucking career average. 5.2 assists, career average. He's crushing it, okay? And he's only getting 7 less points a game. than he was at his prime. The fuck? And people feel like this is, it was a disgrace for him to come back. Like, are you guys kidding me? This is not LeBron scoring 25 a game with the Lakers in 2024. This is not the same thing. They're putting up 120 a game right now. This is when they were putting up 90-something a game. 23 versus 25 at the same age. How is LeBron? It's not impressive. Okay, here's the deal. What LeBron's doing is impressive compared to everybody else at this age. Because at 40, 41, most people, they're completely washed. Physically, so am I. I get it. Most people, their body fails them in their 40s. So LeBron is punching it through at 25 a game. But Jordan back in this era, where they only scored like 85 to 95 points a game, had 23 a game, and we're going to pretend like he sucked? Y'all are crazy, man.
Assists. Those numbers look great in a vacuum, but when you look at Jordan's efficiency, you can quickly tell he didn't have an overly successful season. Jordan took 22 shots per game, far more than he should have for a player shooting 41% from the floor.
Unfortunately, though, it wasn't true because the rest of his team sucked. He had no one to pass to.
And 19% from three. He was second to last in effective field goal percentage out of all players who qualified for the stat.
He was basically like Allen Iverson in Allen Iverson's early years with the 76ers. Same situation. He just had to shoot because nobody else on his team could shoot. Simple problem in basketball.
And 169th out of 177 qualified for true scoring percentage. The real last dance. In the offseason, Jordan the GM wanted to help Jordan the player. He traded the best young player on the team, Rip Hamilton.
Short term, this made sense. Long term, big boo-boo.
For a more experienced Jerry Stackhouse, trading away Hamilton was a mistake. And Jordan once again proved his short-sightedness in making decisions. The team wasn't that much better, and the season went pretty much the same as the last. Jordan, who was a year older and was battling a lingering knee injury, still had some juice left, but he had to squeeze really hard to get a full cup, and it didn't happen all the time. He scored over 43 times, becoming the first 40-year-old to score over 40 in an NBA game. He also had 7 more games where he failed to score 10 points. His defense wasn't at the level it once was, and numerous players took the opportunity to put up numbers against Jordan, something that was unimaginable in previous years. Kobe dropped 55 on him after Jordan taunted him that he could wear the shoes but could never fill them.
I believe we also covered that.
Michael was more rational with his shots in the second year and shot 44% from the floor, and it was enough for 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.8 assists for the season. Jordan played in all 82 games, but once again, the team went 37-45 and didn't make the playoffs. The highlight of the year was definitely the All-Star game, where MJ was selected as a reserve after he rejected the offer from Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady to take their starting spots. He ultimately accepted it from Vince Carter. At halftime, Mariah Carey performed a special tribute to him, donning dresses of both his rookie year Bulls jersey and his final year Wizards jersey, as his career highlights played on giant screens behind her. It was a proper send-off, worthy of a star that was Michael Jordan. In the game itself, MJ didn't shoot it particularly well, but he did score 20 points, and most importantly, hit a tough fall-away jumper over Shawn Marion to give the East the lead with less than 5 seconds to play. It appeared to be a game winner, but the West scored again and prevailed in overtime. Still, Jordan proved that he still belongs with the best players in the world, at least for one game, even though it was clear he wasn't the best anymore. A mediocre dessert to a great meal. If you want a recap of Jordan's time with the Wizards, you'll get different answers depending on who you ask. Jerry Stackhouse said that he wished he had never played in Washington.
It's true.
Because everything was still going through Michael Jordan, even though it was obvious he was.
Young Stackhouse was one of those many people that we compared to Michael Jordan. I mean, it's not fair, but that's what we did. So Stackhouse, him coming to the Wizards was like a punishment for him. It didn't work out for him because he's trying to be the next Jordan while old Jordan is still dominating this Wizards team. I get it. It makes sense.
Wasn't the same player anymore. Kwame Brown was miserable during Jordan's years there, and his career would have certainly been better if he didn't play with MJ as a 19-year-old. The Wizards owner Abe Pollin wasn't thrilled with Jordan either, and he relieved him of his GM duties shortly after the last season of Jordan as a player. If we compare Jordan's last years to some of the other NBA greats, we'll see some similarities. The greatest players who ever did it, if they took care of their bodies, were still extremely effective at an advanced age. Tim Duncan was named to the All-NBA and All-Defensive team in 2015 at the age of 39. Kareem made the first team All-NBA in '86, also aged 39, and he averaged 26 points in the playoffs that year. Karl Malone averaged 28 and 5 at the age of 39.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual that Jordan was still able to play. But maybe the best quote about Jordan's Wizards years came from his agent, David Falk. I just don't think it was a good dessert to a great meal.
That's fucked up. Real quick, speaking of which, though, Karl Malone, you guys saw how crazy buff he was at the end of his career. Do you guys think he was taking some kind of performance PEDs, performance enhancers, like the Balco before the Balco? Because I've always wondered about Karl Malone. He just kept getting buffer and buffer every single year.
The words of De La Soul, Mike was certified hot, and then he dropped to lukewarm. However, that last 2 years didn't affect his legacy, and the unathletic Jordan, who had to pump fake 3 times to get a separation for a shot, was soon forgotten. People like to remember the good things, and the lasting image of Jordan will always be that shot over Russell and celebrating his 6th title with a cigar in his mouth.
I guess. I celebrated the Wizard years. He was a badass. I don't know how to put it. At that point of his career, he wasn't out there being the GOAT. He was just competing. So his team had no business even being a 500 team, and he's out there trying to get his team into the playoffs. He wasn't thinking legacy. He wasn't thinking about anything with the media. He was just thinking, okay, I'm the GM of this team. My team is failing. Can I help them? So he went out there as a veteran and he helped them. Anyways, I don't want this outro to be too long. Let me know what you guys think about the Jordan Wizard years. Do you appreciate them, or do you line up more with like my brother, where it's like you wish he never actually came back as a Wizard because you think it tarnished his legacy? Do you believe in legacy that way? Like you can tarnish it at the very end, even though you accomplished so much? I don't, personally. I like that swan song at the end, that last goodbye, because you can't take away that man's prime. So this was just like a gift to watch at the end, like your favorite band coming back on tour one last time. Anyways, comment down below on your perspective on that. This was a video from Nonstop, and link is in the description. As I said earlier, I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, and peace out.